All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call to order the regular town council meeting for the town of Hudson for April 7th at 6 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stadler? Here. Councilmember Knopf?
Here.
Councilmember Chavez?
Here.
Councilmember Maestas?
Here.
Councilmember Hammack?
Here.
Councilmember Warren?
Here.
Mayor Hargis?
Here. Are there any additions to the agenda?
There is not.
Time in our program for citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to address the council may do so at this time. Please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. Nobody on and nobody wishing to address the council. Consent agenda. Did everybody get a chance to look at it? And if there are no questions, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been approved and seconded. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Warren?
Yes.
Councilmember Maestas?
Yes.
Councilmember Knopf?
Yes.
Councilmember Stadler?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammack?
Yes.
Mayor Hargis?
Yes. 2A, discussion on Enclave annexation.
Thank you. As a memo says, council directed staff to begin looking into enclave annexations in town. Jen and Hillary have both provided memos. So we're going to break this up, have the staff kind of give small presentations, and then we'll open up the questions for council. This is to introduce you to the topic of enclave annexations and how enclave annexations work. So I'm going to start off with Jen, giving a little presentation about current conditions in town for enclave annexations.
All right. And I will start out kind of reminding us what an enclave annexation is, but I will leave it for our attorney to go into the details of the state statute and kind of the process for that. So an enclave is real property. It's going to be located in unincorporated Weld County. It's going to be completely surrounded by the town, and that's not just our right of way. That's not a street. That's not a highway or anything like that. It's got to actually be real property surrounding to make it an enclave. In addition, it has to have been surrounded by the town for at least 3 years. So there's some criteria specifically that make these two properties that I'm about to give you some kind of a summary analysis on. That's what makes these enclaves. There have 2 that have been identified. They're both 5-acre parcels, and they are located right here at 200 Beach Street. There's a little donut hole of a Weld County property right next to us north of Town Hall. And then another one just south of the power plant is at 24349 Highway 52. It is not located anywhere near Highway 52, so it's pretty far off of the road. There is an access easement that gives it direct access to 52. That's its public road and why it's addressed off of 52, but I'll let the county explain why it's addressed off of 52. I'm just trying to give you an idea of where it's located. So both properties accommodate an existing residence and various outbuildings. There are utilities that are being serviced at 200 Beach Street. Both water and sewer services provided to Beach Street, the Beach Street property. One thing to mention in addition, Beach Street does have snow removal, so that is another service that this property directly benefits from, but they didn't necessarily ask for it. They just happen to use Beach Street as their primary access. The Highway 52 property does not have any town services provided to it. There is a future set of utility services that in our comprehensive plan may go up in that area. There is a sewer line that's not too far away, but this property does not have any town services yet. So those are kind of the service provisions to these properties. In regards to mills, there's quite a bit of a difference between town mills and county mills, if you don't know that. But to break it down into actual numbers, we're talking about a 50 to a 60% difference in mills. It would be less they're paying now than what they would be paying in town. So in regards to the comp plan and future land use, you guys know I'm your planner, so I'm going to go dive into the comp plan. And Hillary will go into this a little bit more in terms of the process, but typically when you do annexation, you can currently do the zoning with it. And so I just kind of want to give you a flavor for what the current zoning on these properties is versus I do have some information on our kind of comparable zoning. But the properties are both zoned agricultural. In the county, an ag property has a huge wide array of uses that are allowed on it. So I'm not going to, we'd be here all night if I described and listed them for you. But town has very specific ag-related land uses and future land use, the 200 Beach Street property is designated as variable density residential, which could include single family and others, but that is because it's very much surrounded by R1 and residential zoning, single family residential zoning. The Highway 52 property is, future designation is agricultural, and it's on the periphery of our town. That, I mean, there's ag properties all around it, and that's the reason why the future land use designation is agricultural for that property. And again, I put the zoning code pieces in your memo in case you are interested in the details. But like I said, the ag uses allowed on those properties in the county are very long, and it's a very long list of uses. But I can discuss them with you if you'd like. But that kind of rounds up my summary. And I know Hillary has more about process and whatnot, but if you have any questions about some of my analysis, I'm happy to answer them for you.
I have one.
Sure.
I know a while back we talked about annexing in the properties over there off of Date. What happened to that?
Yeah, it was going to be my question.
They've been here for more than 3 years. They use town services, so why not include them? We need to do all or none. It's not fair.
Right. And so in terms of the actual definition of enclave, to meet that, you have to be fully surrounded by town property. So hypothetically speaking, if one of those, because there's 2 properties, if one of those properties annexed in, the other one would be considered an enclave after 3 years. But because they share a property line with each other, they're not fully considered an enclave because one side of that property is fully bounded by the county. I know it's a bubble and it seems like it's a donut hole. And we can let Hillary chime in too. But the property is not completely surrounded. Each individual property is not completely surrounded, and they're 2 separate property owners.
But
So,
do they use town services?
yes.
So I think they should be annexed in as well.
Unfortunately, it doesn't fall into the criteria to allow us to do an enclave annexation with them. The 2 identified properties are fully surrounded by currently annexed property.
So we can't lump them together because they're 2
Together, 'cause they're
separately
different
owned.
owners and
I get that. It just was never brought up. before
Can't
when we were
use,
talking about annexation
like
of
right away
properties.
to form a boundary.
Well, it looks like the one off of 52.
Yeah, it has a kind of a questionable boundary.
Well, that one there isn't bounded to any other properties, I didn't think.
So if you look,
I'm talking about 52, the one that looks like a barn, but they can live in it, but it's just used for, I guess he rents it out for parties or something.
oh, you're talking about right here at like Evergreen and 52?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that property is only bounded on one side by town. The southern property line and the eastern property line, and even maybe not the northern property line because Main Street / 52, that area very likely is in town. I'm trying to remember from memory, it's not a good thing. But it's not fully bounded. So I definitely analyzed all of the properties, and this one that is off 52 that is considered an enclave, there's a little wraparound of property around it. That's what makes it an enclave. As I was talking about the Date Street properties, like I said, if one of them were to annex, the other one would be considered an enclave based on that.
After 3 years.
After
It looks
3
like
years.
that one's really pushing one on 52.
Yeah, well, I don't have a map in front of me, but let me pull out my.
Does the one on 52 just use our water since they don't use utility
They don't use
services,
the
or what?
water, no.
They don't have any services from the town?
No services.
So then how does that make it an enclave if they don't use our services? Just because they're surrounded by the town?
Correct.
Correct.
So the definition of an enclave doesn't have anything to do with the services we provide. It has to do with, are they surrounded by already incorporated land? And that's not, again, not using right of way, for instance, to make a side of the property. So like a road or railroad track or something. Why don't we bring in Hillary? And Hillary can go over her memo. on the process of enclave annexations.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So annexation typically requires the consent of the property owner, except in some exceptions, and enclaves are one of them. So because it's an enclave, or because we're talking about enclaves, the statutes allow for an abbreviated annexation process. There's still public notice, but it's a shorter process, and it would still be done by ordinance after that public notice. So basically, if town council wanted to move forward, there would be published notice of the town's intent to annex the enclave, and that published notice needs to go in the newspaper 30 days prior to adoption of the ordinance. And there's some required also notices to other jurisdictions like the county, special districts that are involved. And then following that notice, the annexation can be completed by ordinance without a public hearing. And as Jen referenced, the town requires concurrent zoning. So the zoning ordinance would be run at the same time, and it would result in the property coming into the town and being zoned simultaneously. And I'm happy to cover other things if you have questions.
So at first blush of the map, it looks like we have a lot of properties that could be enclave annexed. After we went through and evaluated them, we found just these two properties. You have an examination of the services they use in the town. One of them uses extensive services, the other, it looks like it doesn't. And this is can be an inherently political operation too, moved by a town to forcibly annex in somebody. Towns do it for a variety of reasons. It's not unknown to do. It's not uncommon to do. And a lot of it rides on what the future use may be around that property. Are they using an excessive amount of services that they don't pay for? Those types of reasons. So staff wanted to kind of give you an update of what properties in town fit the bill and what the process would be, and begin a discussion with you to see if it's something that you wanted to pursue or wanted staff to start working on more completely.
Can I ask why now the town decided to do this when those properties have been here for however many years?
We got direction.
And the town never acted on it before?
No, the town's not acted on it before, and I'm not sure how long. Well, I mean, I'm not sure how long these current owners have owned their property.
Another one on Beach a while.
Yeah. No, it's an issue that I've looked at for a year or two. I've brought it up to council. I want direction from council to see if they want us to move forward. Instead of us doing work and nobody's interested, we asked you guys, or got direction from you guys. So this is where we're at on the issue.
Yeah, it was like
Talk to
6,
the
8 months
owners.
ago, I brought it up and said, we need
Right.
to start looking at it.
Have we talked to the owners to see if they're willing to annex in, so we don't have to just go ahead if they're not willing and say, well, we're taking it, it's gonna be part of the town.
I don't know that anybody has actually gone specifically to talk to them. I do know that several of the owners who thought they were going to be annexed, like on Date Street, know about it and
Right, because they
made
wrote
their,
letters.
yeah.
But I don't think the one on
Um,
Beach knows about it at all.
yeah, she does.
Does she?
And
How does she feel?
hasn't said a word.
Because I feel it's important to get their opinion as well. I mean, they're citizens of our town.
Well, but they're not. They're not residents of the town.
So right now, that property's got a big fence going around it.
Correct.
A lot of property inside. Will that fence have to be taken down? Do you have to code and everything taken out? What do they have to do to be up to town code?
If you look at a satellite photo of it,
Did that before, yes.
you can see that there are a fair amount of vehicles. I'm not sure what zoning in town would allow for that.
Fence is too high, so that'd have to come down.
No, it'd have to be minimum 6-foot privacy fence.
Right.
I don't know if Hillary, can you speak about how that process works? Do they automatically get zoned? Do we grandfather? Is that a negotiation? How does that work?
Well, so if the property is zoned as part of an enclave annexation, as it would be, then those standards immediately apply, but the town can't amortize out existing uses. So it would be a grandfathered in non-conforming use kind of thing, where it couldn't be expanded, but it could continue for under the current ownership.
And then if they transferred ownership, then it would revert to the new zoning and losing its grandfather status?
It depends. It would depend. Yeah. If you could reach voluntary compliance, that would be the best situation, or, allow the use but require screening, something like that.
And the whole reason I brought it up several months ago was because these enclaves are using town services such as the police department, the snow plow for beach, anything else that isn't, they're paying water and sewer here at beach, which that would be, so's date.
Right.
But it was just we're providing services to them that they're not paying for.
Right. I get that. I was just curious.
So
I just wanted to touch all bases before making.
What's the amount
a
for
decision.
services that we're actually providing? Do we,
I'm sorry?
the amount, like,
The amount of service?
yeah, well, in terms of like monetary.
about an extra 36 mils. So it's like 50, I think when I looked it up, I don't necessarily see it in here, but I think it was like 50.
It's 30 mils, just about right around 30 mils.
Yeah, it's about a 30 mil difference.
Equating to $717, if I'm reading that correct. At least that's the current impact.
That's per month or is that per year?
No, it's a year.
A year.
Oh.
Mills. Yeah.
So they can leave the property the way it is without any changes. If they do go to change something, it has to be with downtown code. Is that it? Is that what I understand?
Hillary, did you hear that?
I could not hear that. I'm sorry.
Ask
Bring
one
your
one
mic
more time,
down.
please.
So the question was, if we do vote it in, the property that they're allowed to keep, no changes, because if they do any existing upgrades to property, it has to be within town code. Is that correct?
Yeah, generally. So if they're going to apply for permits or seek land use approvals or anything like that, those new things would need to be in compliance with town standards. But if they just come in as is and don't seek town permission to do anything, they could likely continue their current land
They
use.
could? I guess the answer I really need is, will they be able to keep it the way it is without,
Yeah, they'd be grandfathered in.
Yeah, they just can't change anything.
They just can't
as they
change
can't
want.
change
Keep
anything?
the size of
That may not prohibit the town from requiring things like screening. So while they could continue the current use, the town could potentially, and I would have to look at it in more detail, but the town could potentially require screening or other things that don't prohibit the use, but require it to otherwise comply with town standards.
So basically they could use it for the same thing, but if the town wanted them to like make it non-visible from the street, so it doesn't look like a trash heap, the town could require them to put higher fences or screens up.
The problem is now we have a 2-story elementary school next to it and they look right down into it.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the problems. That's not the problem.
and why is that a problem?
I was like, I don't think the kids really care.
Yeah, that's not, there's more,
That was one of the reasons why I started bringing this up, because I have heard that kids and teachers have complained that now they can look into the junkyard and It's
should've
one of
thought
those,
that before they built their two-story building.
what do you call it? An attractive nuisance? the
Inviting
kids?
nuisance. Yeah.
Because, when you zoomed in and looked at that property, it's like, look at that nice maze you have in there.
Yeah, but when you drive by, you don't even notice it's there. You
No,
don't
it's
even
the
notice it's
kids,
there
I'm
until-
saying. It's an attractive nuisance.
Okay, well, if they go in it, it's trespassing.
It is,
So it's,
doesn't matter. So
Well, I'm gonna have to say that is a far reach right there.
yeah.
It really is.
you would think so.
If there's gonna be a kid that's gonna do that,
They would have done it already, I think.
he would have been vandalizing the town.
You're, yeah.
Well, it
When
sounds
I
like the
first,
complaints about like attention at school, say if the blinds are open and the kids are just staring out, and
There's only a few classrooms on the second story on that side that could look into it. There's not all the classrooms look into it.
one of the reasons that I brought this up, I thought there was a lot more enclaves than what is actually the case. It looks like this one is the only issue in the town. The one out on 52, yeah, it's a complete enclave, but they don't get any services from us anyway that they're not paying for. Well, other
We
than the
just wanna
police
make it look
department.
fair and try to find another property to do that too.
There is none though, I don't think.
No, we don't have anything else complete. I thought we had several. We don't. We've got mainly this one.
Okay.
So
And are they considered county?
They're in the county right now.
So then why wouldn't Weld County respond like Weld County responds to Date Street when police are needed?
I don't know.
County services.
Well, but you'd show up first, wouldn't you? If there was an issue on Date Street to those two houses that
Oh,
are,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, eventually the county would have to take a report.
So
And
if
to be
the
honest with you,
neighbor
I don't think
says-
in the heat of the moment, the county would know what's in the county, what's out of the county. The
That's-
call would probably go town of Hudson, something's happening on Date Street, Hudson.
Well,
So the response would be whoever's closest, whether it's fire, emergency, or whatever the
man,
issue
that's the
is.
same thing at my house.
I'm sorry?
It'd be the same thing at my house.
Correct. Yeah, they would just say, something's happening at this address
At
on
our
this street.
houses.
And they
Right,
would,
yeah.
and then after some point in time, but yeah, we'd respond to it.
But I'm not saying that that's the only service we provide. It was just, that
No,
was
I know.
one of the. So, but this is the only property. And yeah, if we do this one, it kind of looks like we're singling them out. So it's up to you guys. What do you want to do? Now that we have the full story on, has to be completely enclosed. It can't be enclosed via a right of way or even two properties next to each other. That means they're not completely enclosed. Is it worth it? Do we want to go forward? Do we want to, what do we want to do?
Maybe you ask the owner, and if they don't, then just let it be because it hasn't been an issue
Yeah, I was gonna
before.
say it's been so long that nothing's been, so I would say just let it be.
I think it needs to be annexed because they're utilizing a large amount of, this particular one is getting a lot of the benefits from town services. I mean, we can still ask the owner, but who's gonna say yes to a 30 mil increase?
Can you guys please speak up? I'm having trouble tracking the conversation.
I say it needs to be annexed.
I'm gonna say no.
I say no.
I say ask the owner.
Nobody could hear you.
And all the
Maria.
time
Oh, I
living
said the
there,
owner will never agree to it.
Oh,
I never knew it was, they had that.
Oh, I've known, but that's because I lived right across the street for a while.
Michael?
You must have been over the fence.
I would say I would
Yeah.
lean towards.
They didn't always have
annexation
a
as
fence
well.
up.
Especially because they can keep it the same as long as they don't make changes.
Unless the town comes in and says, because of the school, make it higher or clean it up. That's
And I'm afraid.
But they
that-
would still
that-
have, they would still have their their actual usage would still be grandfathered. The only thing the town could do is require them to put up,
Follow town code.
some
Let's
sort
start
of
with
blocking.
sending a letter to the owner and seeing what they say.
Yeah.
We actually probably know what they're going to say, but let's send a letter.
They might surprise you.
They might. They might,
Especially if
Miracles happen.
they might sell it and leave now that they're both retired.
Yeah,
So
I'd like to get a look at those cars right there.
Yeah, no joke.
I know. I want to see what too.
All right.
I'm sure they.
Is everybody okay with the direction of us sending a letter to the property owner
Yes.
about, okay, very good, thank you.
And then if they don't want to, I'm still, you know,
But we'd have to revisit it, because I think it would have to be a vote then
it
at
would
that
have to be a
point.
vote then.
Yep.
But I'm still gonna say it's gonna be a no for me.
We'll do so, appreciate it. Any other questions, anything that we can answer for you guys about the issue? Okay, we'll send a letter to the property owner.
Well, thanks for looking into this.
Um,
Turns out it
both
wasn't as
properties?
big as I thought.
Yeah, do both properties.
Send to both properties?
Mine as well.
Is there an actual house on that other property?
Yeah, there's
Yes,
a couple.
it's listed.
There
in
is a
there.
house.
So both of these are resident, technically they're considered primarily residential uses. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Technically, both of these properties are considered primarily residential uses because there are homes on both of them and the ag is considered incidental or an accessory use to that.
Okay.
Okay, I'll send them a letter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
2B, discussion on delinquent water sewer accounts.
Okay, we're back to this issue. This issue's coming up, I think this is the third time we've had discussion about it. Last time was last summer. It was in the middle of COVID. It was in the middle of our pandemic relief policy. The net of the issue is we don't really have a mechanism. Let me back up. For a long time, delinquent accounts for water sewer in the town were kept on if they brought in $5 and said, well, we'll just keep it on. That wasn't a policy that's in your code, but it was the policy that was used. Where that's left you, especially after COVID, is your tens of thousands of dollars with delinquencies. There's nothing in code that either gives staff flexibility to develop a policy or a hard and firm policy that says to keep your water on, you have to pay 10% of your bill or 20% of your bill or whatever it might be. So right now, the policy is they owe us everything that is due or we shut them off. That would, on one hand, obviously that's fair. You need to pay for the services that you get. On the other hand, that would be a hardship to a lot of people because it'd be a large check written very quickly. And so we're wondering how, can we come back with policy? Do you want to keep it the way it is? But we
How many
need some
properties are we
direction.
talking about right now?
I'm sorry?
How many properties are we talking about?
I think in the memo, it's 59 properties. Yep.
Yeah, it's 59 properties. It's
Mhm.
10% of all the accounts.
We have 584 taps in town.
And the total balance due is $47,000.
And
Past due.
56 of those 59 have been on the shut-off list at least once before.
Mm-hmm.
You have a very high and active recidivism rate.
Most of these accounts that show up on our delinquent list are chronic offenders. How we got into this position in the first place is we had staff that did not abide by what your code states. And so when shut-off time came around, it was all you have to do is call town hall and say, I'm going to make a payment on this date and we'll leave you on and we won't charge you your shut-off or turn-on fee, or come in and pay $10, which isn't even a past due amount. So that's how some of these accounts got into arrears as much as they are. And we do have some accounts that have not paid in over 12 months or more. And the code states that once you get to that point, you owe a third of a tap fee to keep your water on.
As far as that 12 months or more and you owe a third of the tap fee, I think we need to, because of COVID and the way things have gone, we need to make that 12 months from April 1st now. Because of last year, people being laid off, we gave leeway to people who couldn't pay. We weren't going to shut off for the last year. So we can't say for the last year, well, you haven't paid for 12 months, therefore we're going to charge you a third of the tap fee. Personally, I think if we started as of now, because we ended our COVID relief at the end of March.
How many of the 59 have been on that list since COVID started? like last year?
Since before
Or prior to
since?
COVID?
No, since, I'm asking how many went onto that list during
Because of
is what I
COVID.
wanna know, because of COVID.
So
Less
our-
than 10%, I would say.
Yeah, our numbers we gave you in July was 34.
These are all prior to COVID.
Yes, so we went up from 34 to 59 since
Okay.
July. So that happened during COVID. The 34 that we gave you in July were average on there. I mean, we have some people that are on there 80 times
Okay.
since they've taken over their account.
Yeah, I was just curious as how many got placed on it because of COVID hardships
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
Well, I agree. They'll start in April.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
You know, instead of coming out of COVID release
Right.
and, well, guess what? You got to pay it all now.
For the 1/3 tap fee, correct?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
1/3 tap fee. That's the, if you haven't
Here or
paid
more.
in 12 months, then you've got to pay the 1/3 tap fee.
The rest of them, I think they should pay their current bill in full plus 10% of their past due balance.
I do want you to be mindful that our highest account that is past due has now reached over the $8,000 mark.
Well, it never should have got there in the first place.
Yep.
They
You
should
gotta
have
draw the
shut off
line
a
somewhere.
long time ago at
Yep.
that point.
We
Well,
agree.
So there's
that is
something there
also
that
a
wasn't taken
situation
care
where
of.
there was a leak and they were unable to provide us proof for the water bill leak assistance program.
And I get that. I mean, I had a
So-
leak and had to pay $500 because I waited 2 months to see if there really was a leak and I didn't complain. I paid my
Yeah.
bill. Like, that's your responsibility. So I think a lot of the ones, especially the $8,000 ones, that's a issue that should have been taken care of long time ago.
Yeah, so you're
Like-
saying, Daniel, like, pay your current month
Mhm.
plus 10% of what's past due.
Yep,
And
that's
keep
correct.
that up every month or,
Shut off.
yeah.
And I-
That's what I'm saying.
Guess my question is if they are not in a financial situation to do that, how long do we wait until we go to the process to lien the property?
Already waited on that $8,000 one. It seems like a couple of years or so. So that one.
Well, and so I'm just looking for direction from this point forward, from COVID, ending of the COVID relief till now. What would your direction for me to
Well,
be?
that raises a lot of questions. Like, one, do they have the ability to prove
They were laid off for
they're
their
financially
hours.
unstable currently?
Or they just don't want to work.
Right.
Do they have,
Which,
The fine line to walk.
it's
And-
super difficult at that point. I mean, you could go the FOSFA route and say, okay, 5% of your income, but how the hell do you do that?
mhm.
So, I mean, I think it's gotta be, I mean, maybe we put a cap on it. It's 10% of your income if it's under, if you owe $5,000, or 10% of the past due balance if you owe under $5,000. If you owe over $5,000 in arrear, it'll be done on a case-by-case basis based on financial stability of the consumer.
Well,
No,
let's
these
look
are
at
all-
this. Let's, we were looking at one part regarding COVID and the effects of COVID.
Percent, period, end of story,
And
personally.
the case-by-case basis, who would you want being the one reviewing the case?
Well, if we're going to go to
It could be considered.
ordinance 2104, changing that, guess who gets to review all the cases?
Oh,
Mhm.
Town manager.
fine.
Well, I also think with the lien process, we need to put a dollar amount on it because what if
Yep.
they just all of a sudden decide to sell the property and walk away?
Well, and our code
It falls
is
on them, yeah.
specific on the lien process.
Of what is it?
I would have to pull it up. I don't have it.
So out of those
Memorized.
59, then are they all own the house or are they renters?
So when we went to the express bill pay system, your town code actually does not allow you to put renters
On it?
in the water bill.
That's why the owner had called in for that water issue.
Yeah.
So I went back and followed code when we got express bill pay because they can just log on to that payment portal with the account number and pay the bill if they're a renter, but it's still in the
Well, and it
owner's
shouldn't
name.
matter if it's a renter because the property owner is still responsible for it.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because the lien's going to go on the property.
So
property.
we've eliminated rental water accounts.
that's helped get us out of arguments between landlords and tenants. We just
Guys,
say,
if I can chime in,
money.
there's no limit on, or no required minimum for lien. So first time it's past due, the town could lien for that past due amount.
So if there's renters, we're letting them know right away that they're delinquent on the water bills, since the owner of the house could affect them.
Mhm.
We do let them know.
We send out delinquent water bill letters on the 15th of every month, telling them their past due amount, their
Okay.
current amount due, when it needs to be paid, and
Those
it's
go to the
all.
homeowner, don't they,
Let's say,
not
do
the
they go to
renter?
Tenant or the homeowner, because if the homeowner
Well,
doesn't give the tenant the
if-
mail,
It goes to whoever the water account is under. So I think we
Owner.
only have a handful of accounts that are still in a tenant because we've done our best to eliminate all that.
the majority go to the owner.
But
of
it
the
still
house.
doesn't matter because then it's a problem
It's
between the
still-
Right,
tenant
I
and the
get that,
owner,
yeah.
not the
Yeah,
town.
and at the end, it's the owner's responsibility, so.
Yeah.
So she needs some direction on what we're gonna do. I do like the pay your current month
Plus 10%.
plus 10%.
If it's over 5,000, maybe like a lower percentage, because they still would have to pay.
No,
maybe-
because that means they just let it go longer than COVID. So I think the higher amount, they've done it before
Well, that
COVID.
5,000, that
So
money
I-
will go
I think
lower
they should
down.
pay higher percentage because they let it go before COVID. They could have been paying their bills the whole time. They just chose not to. So,
I think maybe over $5,000, it gets an independent review.
Okay, so over $5,000 in independent review, under $5,000, it's a current amount due plus 10%. Who's doing the review?
I think it's gonna end up being the town manager.
Okay.
As
Unless you want,
So guys, can I ask a question about the review? Are you assessing their ability to pay? Is that the purpose of the review?
Yeah, that's what my thoughts are. You'd have to assess their ability to pay.
ability to pay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really reluctant for the town to get into that, simply because how would that be shown? I mean, I suppose employment records, tax records, but does the town really want to be reviewing that for residents?
I think it should be 10% regardless of the amount. It should be fair across the board. If they're late, and they should pay.
So to keep on 10% of whatever's late, or 10% of the total balance, including late balance.
So to pay the current balance and then 10% regardless of amount.
And that's to keep your water turned on. And it's turned off until that's paid.
Yes. And I think that we should just start leaning if it's I guess I need to know the amount. Because that's what's really gonna get a property owner, even if it's a renter, to pay their bill.
Let's see. There are 12 utility accounts, past dues over 1,000. Average past due on 3/12/21 is $707. Average balance due on 3/12/21 is $800.
I'd say if they're over $5,000, you start lien proceedings.
what I say too, because those are the ones that didn't pay before COVID. So how is it fair for someone that lost their job and couldn't pay due to COVID versus someone that had the ability to pay and they just chose not to for so long because before the town, people never made them pay their water.
Okay, so
well, what was it? So before, how was it written out
I'm sorry?
about late fees on the water bills?
Did we have anything ever?
So nothing has ever actually changed in code. What changed was a few-year stint of how staff chose to personally handle the situation.
So, but that, I understand that, but what was it before?
How was it written before?
Yeah.
Was it 10% before?
Nope,
Oh, there was nothing.
the code's never changed.
There was nothing.
The code has always been the same. So it's nothing that the code changed. It was just how things were internally handled by staff.
Okay.
So to clarify, the code requires payment in full every month, or termination can occur of service, termination of service the first month after there's an amount due. So
So we're actually giving them more time.
Yeah.
Well, and my concern is, the reason we're here is, I consider it the town's, for lack of a better term, fault that we are here. Whether it was when I was here, prior administration or prior employees, it doesn't matter. We're here. And we have a lot of citizens who've gotten used to it. And so that's why we wanted to come and talk to you, because as Hillary just said, the proper response is you owe it or we turn you off. But there's some big numbers out there and we didn't want to hammer your
they're
citizens
taking
on
advantage
that.
of
So
the
we wanted to figure out
situation.
a way to do it. So that's why
Okay.
we're talking.
Yeah, I think right now, the 10%'s good, and then going forward, you won't even need to implement that if you actually
If we follow code,
enforce it.
If we get, yep.
which we should.
We won't have to worry about delinquent accounts.
It'd be nice not to.
So over $5,000, begin lien proceedings.
Yep.
Under that, current amount due, 10% of past due. Okay, and that will begin,
We're gonna need to craft some language, I think. and get it
yeah,
code.
we're probably going to try to get a postcard out, so that will begin May.
I would also say that the first month that the extra 10% is not paid, start lien proceedings.
The first month after the 10%
If it's
not
not
paid.
adhered to immediately, then you start
Correct.
lien proceedings, no matter the amount that's due.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay. Hillary, this is a code amendment, correct? We can't just we have to change our code.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be the best thing to do.
We will have,
And then it would eliminate the discretion issue that you had before, and it would, it would make it easier to apply.
we will have you something for first reading at next meeting. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I appreciate that.
So if we have it for first reading at next meeting, it's not going to get approved until the first meeting in May. So we can't start this until June.
no, so if it's approved final reading, first meeting in May, it's posted the day after, it becomes part of code 9 days after it's been published. So it would be done by the time shutoffs happen at the end of May.
So it would go in effect essentially.
For May.
It would go into effect 9 days after you pass it on second reading and it's been published.
That gives them 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, and I think from our view, we're less concerned of tying it into COVID, although that's important. But we just need to know how to behave moving
Got to go
forward.
forward too.
So we're looking at the longer term, and I think this really helps us. So
14th.
thank you for the direction.
Okay, 2C, ordinance 2104, ordinance amending sections 1325 and 1326 of the Hudson Municipal Code relating to hearings on water and wastewater accounts, first reading.
Thank you. Well, you guys got to do your first water bill hearing a couple weeks ago. After that, council scratched their head and said, maybe we'd like to find another way of doing this. So staff was directed to come up with some language. What is provided for you as a place to start this discussion is that the appeals process would now go through the town manager office to replace what this body did the last time. I am mistaken in my cover memo here. The appeal of the town manager's decision to council is viable. That is not true. That was me misspeaking. I apologize. Any decision made by the town would be appealed to a court, not to the council. And Hillary can go into that further if you'd like. So what this language says is that it replaces basically town manager with the role of the council. And then section 2, there was language that basically said, if the council made a decision, that got removed. So it was a few words that got removed. And just basically said, if service to a tap has been discontinued. That original section said by the council or something else, and that was removed. So this is a place to start this discussion. On one hand, it takes it out of something that could be potentially political, although last time it wasn't, but bodies are political, a political creature. On the other hand, it puts it into administration, and sometimes that makes citizens feel nervous. So there's pros and cons to this, and we wanted to get this in front of you to start the discussion. But I think what we can all agree on is that at some point in time, you do need an appeals process for the to deal with these issues. Hillary, do you have anything you want to add?
I would add that appeal is required because discontinuation of water service is considered something that's somewhat protected. So we can't eliminate the appeal process entirely. We can redirect it to the town manager. And then the citizens' ultimate relief would, if they still felt it was unfair, would be to the courts.
What would be the course if it stays with the town council and the citizens still don't feel it's fair? Does that still go to the courts after that point or no?
I didn't quite hear that question. I'm sorry.
So if it stayed with the town council and the citizen wasn't happy, where would it go from there? Does that still?
Yeah, same. So it would also go to the court. So we're not changing, we're not going to add an interim appeal. It would be the town manager acting instead of town council and then the court after that.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I don't have a question. I'm kind of torn on the issue, to be honest.
So what are your concerns?
You know, one side of it is the thought that as town council, we're elected by the community, and I think that kind of falls in our lap to hear those. But on the other, I could see what you say. If you could flip flop every 4 years on how it's handled. So.
I kind of feel the same.
So I don't know which way I lean, to be honest.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Hillary?
I would probably want to direct your attention to the memo we provided after the first hearing and before the decision, because that kind of outlines why we might not want town council or need town council review, but I don't want to speak about that in open session.
Can we have more time to think on it?
I was going to say, can we
Absolutely.
postpone this until next meeting?
Absolutely.
Let's postpone this till next meeting. Everybody think about what your concerns are and what questions you'd like answered. You can either email Guy or Hillary or Corey. Let's get some more input on this before we go forward.
Can Hillary maybe send out her concerns? Because she had just said she had some concerns but didn't want to speak on it on an open forum. Is there a way she can send out a memo just?
Well, I can just resend the, I'm sorry if I was talking over you. The prior memo, if it's helpful for me to resend it, it covers the issues.
Which memo?
The memo in here in the council packet?
Which memo are you referring to, Hillary?
I'm referring to the memo that we provided. So the hearing that council heard and that it was continued.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that memo. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Hillary, is there any procedural that they need to do to table this, or just I'll put it on next agenda?
Yeah, it just can go on the next agenda. Well, let's actually have a motion to put it on the next agenda. Motion and vote, please.
I make a motion to table this till the next agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll move ordinance 2104 to the next meeting. Staff reports. Guy.
1 minute. Okay. Thank you. Okay, a little longer report today. had a good day. We had our first full staff meeting lunch today, first time in, I don't know, 400 days. So it was good to have staff together again. We talked about payroll process and insurance and benefits and stuff like that, but it was good to have everybody under one roof and in the same room. Last week, Jen and I had a Zoom meeting with a gentleman named David Rains. Mr. Rains is the CEO of a company called Black Lion Endeavors. Mr. Rains is an ambitious man. He is interested in purchasing several hundred acres north of the prison, annexing it into town, and then he has big plans that would include an auto racetrack, executive airport, executive golf course, single and multifamily housing, event center, commercial, on and on and on. Mr. Rains has not signed a letter of intent on the property. He has not put down earnest money. He has no ties or claims to the property. We had heard about this project for 2 or 3 months, and I finally decided it was time to speak to him to clearly indicate what it takes to annex into the town of Hudson and what we would be requiring. This would be one hell of a project, and we want to be really careful about it. So we were very clear to say that we would want financial studies and things like that to see if this is even viable. To me right now, and I'll say this on public record, sounds a little pie in the sky to me. I think Mr. Rains admitted that as well, but I thought it's something that you should be updated. But there is no application. He doesn't even own the property. I just want to let you know that that discussion is happening. The American Rescue Plan Act, looks like the town of Hudson will receive over $500,000 from the feds. It's unclear at this time what the constraints on that money will be. The money is divvied out as best we can tell by population. So Lockview, Bowie, for instance, will be getting more than us, but we'll keep on top of that and see what we can use it for. Burlington Northern and CDOT work on the railroad crossing in town is still scheduled for this month. And it's expected to take 3 days. I keep updating you and they keep updating me. So that's where we're at on that. Discussions with Allo for broadband. We are bouncing legal documents back and forth. But Allo, if you'll see, is already in town. They're looking at possible alignments. They're looking at a place where they would put their central unit, which is kind of their CPU for everything. They are very, very interested in getting a storefront in town. They want somebody here all the time to help the citizens. So we've talked about that. They are ready to go, and we're in that process. Waste management and extra trash for the heavy snow. I did forward an email exchange I had with Waste Management. The town did not receive any complaints about picking up stuff. I don't know if anybody heard anything. Any complaints?
No.
Okay, so okay, good. And then council brought up last time about looking into occupied RVs in town. So we passed that on to Safe Built. Some citations have been handed out. Some cases are being reviewed. And if it's determined that the RV is not occupied, that ticket is dropped. And some of those have been dropped. So they're working through that issue. We thought we had somebody online to do the code enforcement. That person found another job. We think we have somebody else that would be a very, very good candidate. So we're fingers crossed we got somebody on, because I'm getting real tired of this kind of miscommunication with Safe Built. It's a very weird relationship we have with them. And I think if we can have somebody that's in-house that knows the citizens and can communicate better, you're gonna have much better code enforcement. And then Hunter is off this evening, but he wanted me to relay to you that May 14th and 15th will be cleanup day, and we'll be getting out advertising and everything for that. Any questions?
Since you're in place, so the park where the soccer field is,
Yes.
they just built. So the middle of that's just all dirt.
Yes, I know.
Are we gonna take care of that?
Yes, so we've had to raise that up because the ground is salt, right? So we're trying, we've tried to raise that up, and then we're gonna try to reseed it. It's been if we're not gonna reseed, we may just resod, because we saved money in doing the seeding on Cedar Park. So if we have to sod it, we'll sod it and try to carve it out.
Because
and
that
not have
kid's
kids on
over
it.
there. you
It
know,
looks terrible.
Little kids playing on it
Oh, it looks awful.
on Thursday.
Yeah, no, I hate it. So, and Hunter's tired of me bringing it up to him too.
I was a little shocked to see that.
I am not happy about it. You know, but if you look where it happened, it's kind of a sinkhole, and the roots couldn't get into anything. So
I was gonna say, did that area sink?
A little
Good.
bit. Yeah, if
Thank
you
you.
look at it, it did sink. When they compacted it and they put in the, the underground sprinkling and everything, then 8 or 10 months later. So,
Okay.
but no, I'm not happy about it either. It doesn't look good.
When are we gonna open up town hall for the citizens?
So I have consulted with Corey on that. I'm looking at April 19th.
Okay, because I know Wacolu's already open.
Correct.
Everyone's open. So even
Yeah.
if we reopen to just 3 people, wear a mask.
Yeah.
I think we should be open. I don't think we should still be shut down.
No, we're looking at April 19th. Reason I chose that date is because that's enough time after we have informed staff that they can get their free COVID, where they can get it. If they choose not, and then, so that gets them through their first shot, second shot in about 10 days after that, so that we feel everybody should be vaccinated if they choose to. Not all the staff here is choosing to be vaccinated.
Right.
So it is now up to them to bear the consequences of that, if any. But we're planning on getting open April 19th, if nothing catastrophic happens.
And is all staff back to full-time in office, not doing half at home, half
Correct.
in office?
Yep, everybody's back in. And we've been back in for about 2 months, I think. We've had certain situations. For instance, we had one staff member whose wife was positive. So that person worked from home for 2 weeks and would come in after hours and get stuff.
I don't think we were ever updated that you had staff all back in office. since
No, we
you
didn't.
last Update to no staff's working from home. So
Yep.
just getting clarification on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Guy? Charity?
I have received 5 qualified applicants for the part-time admin tech position. We will be doing interviews next week. Hopefully they will start by April 19th, which is our next payroll cycle, so I can start training them. We are full steam in the audit, so we've got all of our preparations going and we're busy doing that.
Have you got any applications on the rec person job?
We do.
Yep. I think the only one we're struggling to receive applications for is our public works position and our police officers.
I was gonna say, yeah, that one I thought was still open on the website.
Yep. So.
Anything else for Charity? Thank you. Jay?
Just a quick update. This last quarter, we've had pretty good luck in our grant writing this year. So the State Patrol awarded us and gave us 5 radar units so every one of our cars are equipped with radar. That was about $17,500. What's surprising is they're all new in the box, never even used. So we were happy to take them off their hands. We got an equipment grant from Post for $7,500. I don't know if you guys are aware of the ammunition situation, but there is basically none. So I asked for a $9,200 augmentation to our grant, in which they granted it. Now we'll just have to wait 2 or 3 years to get our ammo. Training, so far this year, we were able to send officers to training, all of it covered by post-grant money. That's about $4,500. And our intel databases, we expanded it because we have additional officers. And it was also fully granted this year, so that was about $5,700. So far, just this quarter, we're up almost $27,000 in awarded grant money. And we're working, we have 2 officers almost out of training. They'll be getting the streets full-time, and just looking to get one of our positions, or 2 of our positions opened up, trying to find qualified applicants. So if anybody knows any, I'll listen to them.
So should we start assigning baseballs to all the officers and make sure that their throwing aim is really good?
Well, hopefully we'll be able to get, so we were really lucky because we order duty ammunition, which is police only. So of course it doesn't go out to the civilian population. So we were able to get that, but it's a little too expensive to practice with that. So we're being told 18 months at the most. So I don't know what it is in a hardware or a sports store. I imagine it's probably worse than that. Longer. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So I guess we're lucky to be on that list. Other than that, everything else is going pretty good.
Are we at 24-hour yet or no? Because we don't have those.
No, well, so we sort of flex schedules, so we're able to, because I don't want it out there that we just go home at 3 o'clock in the morning or something. So we're able to flex hours and get people in between 5 and different hours on different days until we fill those positions. So we're able to do that. And with 2 sergeants, we're able to, well, one of our sergeants works the regular scheduled week, and then our other sergeant sort of flexes between trainees and stuff. So we're able to do that a little bit. And I switch my hours around, and I was working traffic this morning, so I'm out there too. So.
Any other questions for Jay? No? Thank you. Jen? Daniel?
They're supposed to put those trees in over there for that oil pad, correct?
Yes. The timeline was supposed to be mid-March to mid-April, and I've already gotten calls on what permits do I need? I'm doing this, so it may not be moving. I don't know what the big upright rig over there is doing, but it does appear that they're doing their due diligence to figure out what they need to do to get the plants in. I'm still making sure they're putting the plants in. Okay.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
Candace?
Nothing.
Joe?
I'm good.
Maria?
I'm good right now.
Sarah?
Nope.
Michael?
Nothing.
I probably will not be here for the first May meeting, so Maria, it'll be up to you. Also, just that I would bring up, I am trying to get a meeting with our new state representative, Dan Wu. We're having trouble getting together to discuss certain issues and problems with CDOT. I don't think he can get us anywhere, but he can at least help me to escalate it up the ladder. So I'll let you know if anything happens there. That's all I have. So citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to address the council may do so at this time. Please state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Matt Cole, 365 Cedar Street. Would like to thank the town for kicking Safe Built's butt into gear, because I am one of the residents that received a notice of violation for my camper that I had someone living in it. Mr. Jack with Safe Built took pictures and told me I was a liar and was bound to determine that I was in violation just because my slides and or my camper was plugged in, I had someone living in it. So I'm glad that the town was able to tell him otherwise, apparently, because I do not have anyone living in my camper. So I wish they would get out of here a lot sooner, but
We're trying.
We all wish that.
Thanks. And there is nobody else in the town hall or online.
I make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to section 3.12, 1C of the Town of Hudson Home Rule Charter for matters of attorney-client privilege, to receive legal advice from an attorney representing the town, and for matters required by law to be kept confidential regarding a neighborhood watch program.
I need a second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are now in executive session.